Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, host of the Riderflex podcast and founder and CEO of our day job recruiting firm, Riderflex. We hope you enjoy this episode. And as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast for updates and news. Finally, if you haven't already, check out the series of books we've published on hiring, interviewing, and overall career advice titled The Riderflex Guide, available on Amazon. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Most homeowners don't have the time or expertise to properly take care of their home, which causes costly issues to arise. That's where Kira Home Maintenance comes in. We're a full-service, routine maintenance company that was developed by a certified home inspector. Each quarter, we service our clients' homes following manufacturer's recommendations to properly maintain all the necessary appliances. We provide the materials and expertise to prolong the life of your property, creating a healthy and efficient environment for your family. From top to bottom, we'll maintain and service your home. To get started, we have a property inspection to determine what needs to be maintained, and a maintenance plan is created based on your preferences. From refrigerator coils to filters, vents, and drains, we do it all, and we do it well. Contact us today for your free routine maintenance inspection, and never worry about your maintenance again.
Tem Morgan on the Riderflex podcast. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, Steve. How are you? Having a great day so far. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It finally got cold in Colorado. We're finally here. We're at that pivot point where it's going to be freezing temperatures. Might get a little drizzle out there this weekend. Finally, it's here. But I'm guessing you don't have that in Atlanta.
No, we don't. Actually, it's pretty cool here. We're in a really funky time of the year because in the morning it's 47, 50 degrees, but then in the evening or after school, when I pick my kids up, it's like 78 degrees. So yeah, sweater in the morning, t-shirt in the afternoon, but it won't be that for too long. After about another month, it'll drop down into the 30s and 40s. So
yeah, it freezes what, a couple of times a year in Atlanta?
Very seldom. Maybe in January. It's very uncommon, but when it does, it shuts the city down.
Yeah,
but it doesn't freeze often.
Right. Yeah, you're totally closed down for the day. So Tim, before we get into business, tell our listeners a little bit about you, Tem Morgan, the person. Let's go way back. Let's start back. Parents, siblings, where you grew up, if you don't mind.
Right. So a little nomadic in my childhood, youngest of 5 kids. My mom and father divorced when I was young. So my mother was actually a lay minister and kind of moved from South Carolina, born and raised in part of my life in Philly and the other part in South Carolina. But typical African American youth in the urban center. Having a lot of time on his hands and getting in a little bit of trouble. So my mother decided that she needed some help, and she had 11 brothers and sisters. So we kind of, as I said, it was a nomadic experience in my childhood. We went back and forth between a very religious, structured environment in South Carolina to a very loosey-goosey environment in Philadelphia. So, but that kind of shaped me what I am today, because the structure and that background, growing up, going back and forth from a very religious structured environment, bringing it back to Philadelphia, really shaped me, and it really made me see something outside of the normal kind of the lifestyle in the urban centers. A lot of time on your hands, a lot of drugs, a lot of violence, all of those things, right? They always say in a city you either or selling drugs or you're in athletics, right? So I was neither. So I just kind of sat at like a bunk on a log. However, my uncles kind of chided me, and they say, "Hey, you're smart, man. Just try college," right? So I was always gifted, but I was just notoriously getting in trouble, Steve. I had a lot of time on my hands, but and I wasn't a fan of school. So when I was in like 11th grade, my mother said, "So what are you going to do?" And I had no idea what I was going to do. My older brothers went into the military. Most of them, they went into the military to escape the city. So the military is a good option, Army and Navy. So and I ended up going in there in the reserves. But my mom sent me down to South Carolina, and my uncles, they preach two things: you're going to get a job or you're going to go to school. So I
yep.
begrudgingly followed my sister into college, and I went to Savannah State and fell in love with academia, fell in love with math and science, and it just encapsulated me. I saw, and that's an interesting thing about many HBCUs, which is so valuable to the United States fabric, the landscape, is because you see so many African Americans from so many different areas of the world that are situated in this HBCU, and I became a member of this group of individuals and just thrived. So I ended up getting my degree in chemistry and at Savannah State University, and ended up doing some research. I was going to work on my PhD in chemistry. I went to Howard, did some research there, did some research at the United States Department of Defense, and then I decided to become a chiropractor. Believe it or not.
I saw when I was getting ready for the interview this morning, and I'm studying your profile, and I'm looking at that. I'm like, what? Well, hold on, he was going to be a chiropractor? Okay, well, yeah. Tell me what happened, or how'd that?
And that it's interesting. Now, so no one, when you think about the segue into staffing, no one wakes up in the middle of the night and says, "I want to be in staffing." Right?
That's true.
I didn't either, right? No, I don't think you did either, right?
No,
but
no.
I was a chiropractor. I was very successful. I was in Minnesota, and
Minnesota. Okay, well, how'd that happen? Minnesota
chiropractic schools, and so I went to Northwestern Health Sciences University.
I see.
In Minnesota. So the guy that owned my building just seemed like he wasn't working. He owned a building, but he had a staffing company in the building. His name is Tom. He's a good friend of mine now. And I said, man, this guy isn't working, but I'm sitting up here adjusting people, cracking necks and backs. And apparently he wasn't working, but he really was working. And I said, hey, what do you do? He said, well, I own a staffing company. Let me show you what I do. And he told me about it, and it seemed simple enough, right? Little did I know it wasn't. And because if you think about it, many chiropractors, lawyers, doctors, they hang out a shingle, and you're kind of at the behest of people walking in. So in these professional organizations, they don't teach you about business. So I had the struggles. I was successful, but I had the struggles of, being a solo practitioner, sole proprietor.
Yep.
So I decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna sell everything, because I loved building businesses. It wasn't so much the clinical aspect of it, but I love building businesses.
Because technically you're already an entrepreneur at that point, because you had your own practice.
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, and while all my colleagues were thinking about clinical outcomes and taking the non-ambulatory to ambulatory, I was thinking about how many patients that I saw that I would see that day, and how much money I made, right? How much money I could get from the insurance companies. So I decided to sell everything. So I sold my clinics, and I became a friend. I wanted to move back down to the Southeast, and I took my son, and we went down to the Atlanta market, and I found a woman. Her name is Pam Cole, and she was a franchisee for Snelling. And she said, "Do you want to be a franchisee?" I said, "Yes." So we became a partner, and I opened up the Atlanta market as a franchisee for Snelling staffing.
How about that?
That is how I got into staffing. That right there, that was the inflection point. That was 2004, 2005. I relocated from Minnesota down to the Atlanta market. There wasn't a Snelling franchise in Atlanta at that time, and I opened up the first one in Decatur, Georgia. That is how it started.
Now, it's interesting, isn't it interesting how you go through one door left or right and things just change in your life, just one little decision. If you hadn't had your office in the building to meet the guy that had the staffing firm, none of that might have happened, right?
Yes. There was out of sight, out of mind. There wouldn't have been any exposure. We were friends. He came over. He I went to his house. He taught me. He showed me about it. It would have never happened. I'll still be a chiropractor to this day. I think a successful one, but I would still be a chiropractor.
Isn't it interesting? As I get older, I really reflect back on that. I think, just things like, man, if I hadn't gone here on this day and met that person for this.
Right.
It's interesting how life takes you down these paths.
It is interesting, because I was reading a book. It's called God Winks, and it talks about how God would wink at you, and you think there are common occurrences or coincidences, and it's really, if you believe in a higher power, it's a higher source winking at you, kind of telling you, take this path. And it was a wink. It's because it wasn't knee-jerk. It wasn't knee-jerk, Steve. It was, I was there for years. So over years and years, I just said, man, I want to make money like this guy, because think about it. If you're a dentist, or if you're a chiropractor, or if you're a lawyer, if you're not practicing, then you're not really making money, right?
Oh,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
had to be
totally.
physically there. So I wanted to be, I think I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich
Oh,
Dad, Poor Dad.
yeah,
And he talked
great
about
one.
he talked about how the professionals are the ones that are hurting. So I wanted
Mm.
something that kept making money when I was asleep. So yes, no, the answer is no, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that guy that ran me to
Now,
space.
now let me ask you. Let's go back. You talked about a son. So were you married, or you had a girlfriend up there? What happened?
No, met my the at that time love of my life in high school. I mean in college, and at
Okay.
19 we had a son.
Okay.
So we had a son at 19, and we ended up separating. But
Okay.
I got custody, and we moved down to Georgia.
Interesting. Was that? Do you mind me asking? Was that a huge battle, or she was like, "Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I'm not ready. You take
Well,
it."
it's a little bit of it was I think it was an afterthought. Obviously at that time I was young and a little hot headed, and I didn't grow up with my father. And I think you and I talked about this previously. So
Yes.
I wanted to be in my son's life.
Okay.
So I said,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to move. I'll take care of full responsibility.
Okay.
And so she let it happen, and it was the best decision that we both made for him.
How about that? Did you ever get remarried?
Yes, I'm married
Okay.
now. I am.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other kids?
Two, a boy and a girl.
Okay, so 3 kids all together. All right.
Yes,
How old's
sir.
your oldest? Is your oldest boy off to college? Grown? Married?
Oh,
What?
he's grown. He's grown now. He's out. He went to Morehouse, and he's 30 years old. So I'm old. I'm 50, Steve. I'm 50.
Any grandkids yet or no?
Oh no,
All right.
not yet.
All
Hopefully
right.
not.
All right. So he's not married. He's still just
No,
having a good time.
he's still having a good time.
Okay, very good. How'd you meet your second wife?
Through friends, where we were had a frat brother that knew her sorority sister, and we all went out one night as it would be in Atlanta, young people, and we met, and there it goes. We kind of connected, and that was 12 years ago, 10 years ago, something
Oh,
like
it's
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 10, 12
Yeah.
years ago. Hey, you know what?
Mhm.
For her at that time to meet a guy that was raising a son by himself, that was rare, probably rare, or
Definitely rare. I mean, regardless of color, most men
yeah,
aren't
rare.
raising the children by
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah,
But
totally.
I think you'll find that I'm pretty unique. Good, bad, another. But again, it goes back to me not being having a father present in my life. So
Yes.
I didn't want my son to go through the things that I went through.
Did you ever reconcile with your father? Did you ever get a chance to know him?
It's interesting that you say that, because I just talked to him for the first time in my life
In your
about
life?
a month
What?
ago.
Wow. Okay. Holy cow. All right. Tell me
Yes.
about it. Tell us we got to hear this. Tell me. How did it happen? Tell me.
Well, I was talking to my oldest brother, and he had a relationship because when he separated from my mother, I was just walking. So maybe 9 months, 10 months old or something like that. I was just walking.
Okay.
So I never met him. But
All right.
my older brother is probably 7 years older than I am. So
Okay.
and he's a little bit more how could I say it? Empathetic. So there's two sides of every story, right? With regards to the separation. So he reached out to him over the years, and they built some type of relationship. And I just never, because I didn't build that relationship over my former 49 years of my life, I didn't feel a need to reconnect. However, we were talking one day, and an uncle passed, and he said about our father. He talked about it, and I said, you know what? He wanted to talk to me, and I said, sure, let's have a conversation. So he called me. He said, is it okay if I give him your number? Yeah, he called me, and we talked for probably 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. So
this was a month ago.
yes, if that. Yes, if
Wow.
that.
Was it emotional? Was it powerful for you?
It's a podcast, so I think you could say yes, but not really. It wasn't, because there was absence there. So yes, he's my father in title, but there wasn't any feeling. There wasn't feeling. There was. I think that it filled in some potholes that I guessed about, that I probably filled in with some disdain or hate, but I was able to pull it out and replace it with just because I heard stories from him that were inaccurate with regard to what my mother told me. So, but as far as feeling, like there was a like Antoine Fisher story, there was a movie that came out years ago with Denzel Washington, there was no, okay, let's get together and hold hands and go to, eat a cheesesteak in Philly. He's still in Philly. No, there wasn't that. You're my father, I respect it, but the title was there, but fatherhood exists through experiences, and it was there was decades of lack of experiences. So there's no, if he should pass, he's my father. I would attend his funeral. However, I can't. There would be nothing that would evoke any kind of emotional or elicit any kind of emotional response like tears or anything like that.
Yeah, gotcha. Interesting story. I appreciate you sharing that with me. All of that, your experience with your mom and how you grew up, and Philly and South Carolina, and the religious aspect, and all of those things shaped who you are today, for sure.
100%. All the experiences were great experiences at the time. They weren't, but as I look back, they say hindsight is 20/20. As I look back, I know for a fact that every experience
no doubt
that I went through shaped me, because it's the oddest thing. You think, wow, that happened because now I can manage this.
Yes, that's correct.
And
totally agree.
I think it takes for you to hit a certain time, maybe a point in your life at 50 or 45 or whatever, you start looking back saying, oh, I had the tools. And those tools were given to me.
I agree. Do you have a faith now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
all right.
I have a very strong faith. Grew up, and that's the funny thing, Steve. When I was so I always say in my family they're saints and sinners, right? So in Philly,
hey, that's for all families.
So in Philly, I just ran amok, and we didn't have much structure. But in the South Carolina, that's the Bible Belt, right? So we grew up very holiness, So you're talking about even to this day, I don't wear jewelry. So women don't wear jewelry. You don't wear jewelry. You don't watch TV. Women wear dresses. You go to church 3 days a week. It's just God. And while I'm not, I don't follow holiness. I'm a Pentecostal. I do have a very strong faith, and my faith is based on where I know that my hand is in another hand that is directing my life. And it's not as talented as I am, and as educated as I am, and as successful as I am, it's all due 100% to my hand being in somebody else's hand. I look back and I see it and I know it. There's no I'm a man of science, but I can speak to with absolute 100% certainty my hand is in somebody else's hand.
Appreciate you sharing that with me. We have a very similar background there, my friend. I grew up in Oklahoma, and my mother is not Pentecostal, but Assembly of God, which is close.
Yep, very.
And she's still hardcore to this day. Every time I go home, she's trying to resave me. But I, I'm very similar to you, right? Like, I have a relationship. I say my prayers. I consider myself a believer. I'm not in church 3 times a week, and I probably sin more on a daily basis than my mother does, but I do believe in the higher power, so to speak. So, we'll get to my next. Go ahead.
You don't stray too far. You have your foundation, and I built
That's
it.
Right.
We go to church every Sunday. My daughter goes to Eagles Landing Christian Academy. So, our faith is what drives us, and as the head of my household, and I look to God for direction, and my family looks to me for direction. So I think that's a great team.
We can move away from this topic, but the last thing I'll say on it is, I actually think we need a little more of your lifestyle throughout the country. And I think some of the problems and challenges is we've moved too far away from some sort of faith in so many aspects in life. And I feel strongly about that, and I think that's hurting us in many ways. But anyway, we're very similar, my friend. I'm going to go see my mom in December, and I know it's just God every conversation. Like, I can't just bring up any topic without I'm like, Mom, you're suffocating me. Can we please just have like a regular conversation?
Correct. I grew up like that, but I want to add something to what you just said about the absence of prayer and faith in school created a nihilistic mindset that has turned our culture into just, there's no tomorrow. I'll bask in whatever pleasures that it's a society without walls. So I can do whatever I want, say whatever I want, no repercussions. So when you have that nihilistic mindset, then there's no repercussions to anything. Yep. So if that's the case, then I'll do whatever the hell I want to do. So,
completely agree. And by the way, for any of the listeners of my podcast, if you want to send me hate mail over that, go ahead and send it.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm in total agreement. Okay, very good, my friend. Appreciate you sharing, who you are as a person. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Great career. You did several things in the staffing recruiting industry. We don't have to touch on all those. Let's kind of jump forward to where you're at, because I want to get into that. So you're currently at 2C Workforce Solutions. You've been there since January. So almost a year.
Yep.
Are you an equity holder / co-founder as well, Tim? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us how you got there, how it came about. Did you have some friends call you? Right.
So I would have to go forward. I have to go back a little bit. So when I moved down here from Minnesota back in 2005, I was a franchisee for Snelling with a woman called Pam Cole, who's my mentor to this day. She taught me staffing. She told me when I met her, she said, "You don't know anything about staffing, so I'm going to teach you." And this was old school staffing. This is when we had phone books. There wasn't all the platforms, none of that crap. There was a phone book, and there was a
Rolodex,
a Solodex, right? So I was in Savannah for a while, and she said, "This is staffing, and I want you to go knock on some doors and go make friends." I still say that to this day: go make friends. So we quickly grew from a handful of offices to, I think we had at the apex was 20 offices. We went from 5 to 20 offices from 2005 to like 2016.
That's
and
great.
we were approached by a private equity company in 2016.
Cool.
And then we grew it again to 2019.
Did you cash out right there though when the private equity came in? Did you get, there was no payday?
We got paid. Yeah.
Okay.
We got paid.
Okay.
So we stayed on. We reinvested, and then we got bought again by another private equity company in 2019.
Wow.
Yes. So that was M South. So
and by the way, can we just take a pause right there? I don't mean to interrupt you, but for the listeners, the aspiring entrepreneurs, just those two things. I mean, going through both of those transactions, learning how to negotiate through private equity, and then and selling to them, and then working for them technically as the boss because they have control, like all of that. There's a ton of wonderful experience in there for your career overall. A ton of learnings in there. We could talk about all of that for probably 2 hours. Just those two.
Yes. Yes. It was. I tell people from 2016 to 2019, I felt like I got an MBA.
Yeah, I believe it.
You get these guys that come in on these planes, and they are Harvard guys and all the higher level thinking. But I was a practitioner in staffing, but they through a lot of conversation and a lot of quarterly business reviews, monthly reviews, they taught me the business aspect of it that a lot of staffing companies don't really understand how to grow the business. That's why we exploded from 16 to 19.
That's great.
And really understanding the EBITDA, understanding how, I mean, it's a penny's business. The margins are so slim, it's a penny's business. And if you don't understand that, you lose your shirt. I think they said 86% of staffing companies do not make over $1 million a year.
That's probably right.
6%. Yep. So, we were at, I think, 86 million. Wow. So we were growing pretty fast. Now, when we were purchased, and this is something that it goes back to my faith. At 19, Steve, I really had to think in 2019, do I want to come along to be a part of a bigger company? So that company turned out to be Employee Bridge that has 450 offices. And my seat at the table became what I felt was insignificant. I went from being one of 2 or 3 or 4 to being one of 20 or 30. Okay. And it's just, I had to pray about it, think about it. I got counseled by people that know me, know my lifestyle, and know what's important to me. And I decided that I didn't want to come along for the ride. I didn't want to be a part of something so large where my voice wasn't heard. And I think that'll, when we talk a little bit more, you'll understand why I'm doing what I'm doing now. And if we just take a step back, I was in the military too. I went in the military.
That's right. I forgot to touch on that.
Yeah, to the reserves. And I kind of felt about the same way. While I love the military and I believe and this is something that's probably unpopular, especially now, I believe that every young man, and maybe even every young woman after high school, should go into the military, should go into
I'm
basic
fine with that
training.
too. I'd vote for that. I'd vote yes for that.
Go to basic training. That's 12 weeks. Go to AIT or A school, whatever school you want to, and learn a trade. And then you can go to college or do whatever you want. It teaches you that there's one color, that's Army green. It teaches you discipline. Get your butt up in the morning. Take care of yourself. Say your prayers, make your bed, put your clothes. I mean, it teaches you these work hardened skills that most won't even achieve until they're in their 30s.
I'm totally in favor of it. I'm totally in favor of it. If there was a public vote on that, I'd vote yes. My son, who went to the Air Force, of course, while he's in, he was hating it, but once he's out and he used the GI Bill to get his all the way through his master's for free, and now now when you talk to him, it's like, oh, it's the best thing I ever did. You know,
best thing you ever did. And here it is, Steve, really quick. The military, so you go in and they shave your head off. And they take the black guy with the dreadlocks, the white guy with the spike hair. They take the hillbilly from West Virginia, the Crip from South California. They take the Latino guy from Miami, shave all their hair off, put you in some brown draws, and they call it nuts to butts. They make you sit on a bench and they shoot you with these medicine. And after about 8 weeks, they put you in a foxhole and you're there by yourself with this guy at 2 o'clock in the morning freezing, and you learn to talk to one another.
That's wonderful. I love it.
You learn to communicate, and you learn that if you have any brain power, you know that despite color, we're 99.9% the same. And quickly you learn that I don't care where you are, we want the same things in life. We have the same hierarchy of needs from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? They all need to be met. We're just afraid to talk and communicate. The military makes you do that.
I love it. That's wonderful.
So fast forward, that went back to go forward. So after we sold, I decided that I didn't want to come along for the ride. So I resigned and decided to look for something else that was more in alignment with what I wanted the rest of my life to look like professionally.
Something entrepreneurial,
something entrepreneurial, but I didn't want to use my money, so I wanted to use someone else's money. But I know I had the skill set. My skill set is market expansion. My skill set is growing sales teams. Because I was a franchisee, so I knew how to manage recruiters, train recruiters, direct hire recruiters, contingent recruiters, sales guys, outside sales, inside sales. So I offered my experience to a small mom and pop company down in Florida, which I went down there for almost 2 years and grew them from 12 million to 38 million.
So you reload, you reload your family for that.
I reload to Clearwater, Florida.
Okay. All right.
One of the best beaches I've ever had in my life. I've experienced in my life. Clearwater is just absolutely amazing. But I reload my family down there and thought that, as God will have it, man's plans are God's jokes, right? So I thought that was the end of it. We were doing well, opened up 2 offices for them. They had 3, opened up an additional 2 offices. So we were exploding. They won the Fast 40. We were top in 40 years they were in existence. When I got there, they had never won an award. They won number 9 in the city of Tampa of all the fastest growing companies. So we were exploding. Then, like all things on LinkedIn, a headhunter called me and said, well, she inboxed me and said, hey, would you like to have a conversation? And I said, no. And she said, well, I'm looking at your profile. Let's have a conversation. So I said, sure. And she said, well, you have to sign this non-disclosure agreement. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not signing that. And she said, come on. So she was quite forceful. Talked to her. And she said, look, I'm working for this company, representing this company that is really trying to do something special. I saw your background. And she told me about this opportunity. And it just resonated with me. It was an opportunity to get back to Atlanta, the Atlanta area. It was an opportunity to do something, to wear the hat of business ownership and not to use my capital to do it.
Okay.
But the biggest thing is what resonated most to me was to make an impact into the market. That's something that unconsciously has always been in the back of my head, but I wasn't able to provide a solution for it on a global scale like I wanted. And that was impacting those disenfranchised individuals returning from incarceration. So when she said that, and this was a courting period. So we talked, my current boss and I talked for about 6 months, and I went back and forth and we talked and we talked about the impact and how it could serve 2 gods, really. I mean, 1 God, but 2 purposes, is helping those returning citizens, but also fill the gap with employers. So they wanted me to come back to Atlanta and open up, and with the intent of being successful, to focus on a commercial staffing company that would provide resources for those returning from incarceration and or in some phase of the adjudication process, and really filling and also educating employers on that missing talent pool that they're not getting because they have the stigma in their mind of what reentry looks like. So that's where I am today.
Great. Okay. And the company is 2C Workforce Solutions. The website for the listeners, by the way, is the number 2ccareers.com.
Yes, sir.
And why, I guess I should probably know why 2C, what's the, I don't
2C is funny, is second chance. Everyone deserves a second chance.
Sorry. I should have figured that.
That's okay. No, it's okay. But we say, and that's the beauty about where I am now. We really started from scratch and we wanted to make an impact. So you and I have been in staffing for a while. It's something that it wasn't about money, Steve. It was about impact. Because one thing I do, you might ask, so why? I mean, people are crazy. Well, you see people that have been in staffing for 20, 30 years, you just love it, right? And I always loved people getting paid on Friday, because you take that check and you go home and we repair relationships, we repair communities. People don't get mad when they get a check, right? They go to Carrabba's, they go to the movies, they take care of themselves. But now I have the opportunity to take it one step further. And for this facet of the population that really are hopeless. I mean, it's bigger than what you think. 1 in 3 Americans have a background. So think about
okay, can you define, when you say background, what do you mean? A felony?
I have a felony, yes. 1 in 3 Americans.
1 in 3? Wow. Okay. Man, let me let that sink in. 1 in 3 Americans have a felony?
1 in 3, yes.
So hold on.
They have a criminal criminal record.
So hold on. Let me make sure I understand this. Then if I'm doing the math right, that means only 75% of adults in the United States can vote, because 25% can't because of a felony.
That I don't know about the math on that. That's your math, but I do know that one.
I'm sorry, 60. I'm sorry, I'm doing that math wrong. 33, whatever that is, whatever that. So.
Well, let me back up. 1 in 3 Americans have a criminal record. So it now, how it's defined as being a felony or misdemeanor, but a criminal record is something as the government defines. But 1 in 3 Americans have a criminal record.
Okay, I have to look up. Okay. I'm thinking that means only 60 or 70%, between 60 and 70% of America could vote. But I hear what you're saying. Wow, 1 in 3.
Bigger than what I thought. And the number just exponentially increases when you think about those that are impacted. We call it justice involved. So when I say I'm justice involved, that means someone in my family has been in some phase of the penal system, whether they're incarcerated, coming out of incarcerated, on parole, coming off of parole, they're coming out of transitional housing. They have a criminal record. So because it's not only that person, it's everyone around that person, that community within that person.
Wow. If you include the person plus the impacted people, now you're talking about 40% of the population.
Right. So think of this. Something as easy as this. Steve, you come down to it because you're in Colorado, you come down to Atlanta, you say, hey, Tim, you know what? We're both good guys. Let's go have dinner. We have dinner, we go have a drink, and maybe I don't drink, but if I have more than what I should, and then I go and I get a DUI, and for some reason get in a car accident, whatever. It's not only me that's impacted. I'm in jail now. It's my wife, who doesn't work outside the house. It's my children. It's my siblings that are and people don't understand that when that person, and we're blowing it up, obviously, the impact on that household, then that community, and then society. And that's just a DUI. Imagine long-term incarceration, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, wrongfully convicted.
Bro, that's a whole nother. You have to come back on the podcast. We can do a whole.
I will talk to you about that, because I have a lot of thoughts on that.
I've had a few people on the podcast that are involved in that whole thing, helping people that are wrongfully convicted, etc. Do you know Mark Hugentobler? Hugentobler. He has the podcast, All My Friends Are Felons.
No, but I need to know that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Okay. Afterwards. All My Friends Are Felons. Yeah. Anyway, but okay. So Yeah. By the way, on the story you said about the DUI, when I think about the people coming out of incarceration that need to be helped, I'm usually most sympathetic to those folks that ended up being incarcerated for one stupid mistake, and they weren't criminals before that, right? They didn't have this lifelong criminal. They did this one dumbass thing, and
Yep.
they ended up incarcerated. And then while they're incarcerated, they had to join a gang, or then they ended up doing something else dumb. And now their whole life is just completely flipped upside down. Those people, and the ones that are wrongfully convicted, those two groups, I'm just like, gosh, I just feel so bad for those people.
And there are two buckets that really hurt me, and I'll tell you a story on the second bucket. The first bucket is, when do you catch them? Like I said, I was in Philly, but my mom sent me home, South Carolina, to my uncle. So it kind of pulled me out of Philly. All my friends are now in Philly are either in jail or they're dead right now because they couldn't escape. So the age at which your first stint in incarceration. So if you're going to juvenile at 16 years old, by the time you've been back and forth 3 or 4 times, by the time you're in your early 20s, you're a hardened criminal.
Yeah.
And what am I doing if once I go at 19, I come out, and the first thing, and this is why I'm so happy I'm talking to you, when I walk out, when I come out of prison, I go back to my community and I look for a job, and everyone says there's no jobs for criminals. Yeah. So I need to eat. I might have children. I need to pay my rent. So I'm going to go back and do the same thing that I was doing that got me back in jail. After a while, you become a man is known by his actions, right? You identify a tree by the fruit it bears. By the third or fourth time, you're a hardened criminal, or you just society throws you away. Now that's age, so that's a whole inner city thing, or even because in staffing, I've been blessed to work down in South Georgia in the rural areas, and it's the same thing. It doesn't only have to be inner city. It's the rural areas. Methamphetamines and just time on their hands are killing the young rural kids. We're not talking about me trying to place someone at work that is just a repeated offender. I'm not talking about that guy.
Yeah, understood.
That guy, they exist. I'm talking about the individuals that have committed a crime, that have paid their debt to society, whether through time or through financial restitution, and they're saying, hey, I have a skill set. I would love to make an impact in someone's workforce, whether it's manufacturing, distribution, call center, administration, or what have you.
And Mark was telling me, the guy from All My Friends Are Felons, he believes that 90% of the inmates are what you just described. He said, make no mistake about it. He said about 10% of the inmates are psycho, lifelong criminals that need to be in there. But he said the majority of them either grew up in the wrong place, didn't have a chance, made one mistake, et cetera, like you're describing. Yep.
Absolutely. I say 90 plus. I've been doing it for a long time. And even when I've seen what's been evidenced in this office that I'm sitting in right now, you would not think this guy just did 5 years. You would never think he did 7 years. You would never think he did. Laji Ruffin, who did, he's an individual that I met. You should look him up, Ruffin, Ladji. He did 26 years. He now works for the state of Georgia. Yes, you would never think he did 26 years. You know, everyone says they want to be a millionaire, but no one really wants to be a millionaire. They want the trappings of it, right? No one wants, very few want to be a CEO. So let's bring it down.
Yeah.
How many individuals have given a second chance, they can make 30, 40, 50, $60,000 a year and take care of themselves. Yes. You know, that's it. But they just need the chance. And here's the issue. The problem is twofold. So second chance stands for providing them a second chance, finding those employers, but also helping them with their own mentality. Because once you've been institutionalized, you have the mentality that I'm a criminal. No, you're not a criminal. You made a mistake. You paid your debt. Now let's create another paradigm shift, and let's talk about your skill set. What do you have to offer? You know, the employers in the community. So let's get away from that criminal mentality, and let's leave it in the past. You've done it, and let's move forward. So that's what we do as well. We're helping these individuals with those soft skills, you know, interviewing, Many of them have never interviewed before in their life. You know, what is work hardening? 8 o'clock means 7:30. You know, I mean, conflict resolution, the correct dress attire. How do you manage stress? So those are the things that we provide them with a
That's
lot of
great.
help.
Love it.
Even something as simple as a comm app. The comm app you see on TV, if you become a member of 2C Workforce Solutions, we provide you with a comm app. So you can learn how to meditate. You can learn, I mean, it's so much that we can help these individuals with, and that's what I'm passionate about. So if you ask me why I love doing what I'm doing, one, we're paying individuals weekly. So we're changing communities. Number two, we're changing it. And people say the macro is that one person. I believe all the ills of society, the ills that we had could be quickly mitigated if we just turned inside and if we just focus on ourselves. You don't have to be Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg. Just let's repair your home first, yourself, and then your home, then your neighborhood, and then your community. That's the butterfly effect, right?
Wow.
That's how we create it. So it's that one person. That's what's important.
Tell me the business model. So the help that you provide to the people transitioning. Now, those people aren't paying you, obviously. You're helping those candidates get ready and transition, and then you are targeting industries and companies that are willing to give these folks a chance, and then connecting the two.
Correct. Easier said than done. So there's a lot of hats that I wear.
Yeah, I made that sound simple, didn't I?
You made that sound incredibly simple. I wish it was that easy. So yes, anyone could come, whether you have a background or not. So we're a commercial staffing company. If we have a job for admin or manufacturers, anybody can apply. However, we do focus a lot of our attention on the returning citizens, and no, we don't charge anything. Come in, apply online, and then fill out application, come to see us, go through the interview process. My work as the senior vice president is working with contacting a lot of the companies. I just left DC, strategizing and trying to educate them on changing their policies, changing their paradigm. Easier said than done, because it looks good on paper, and as you know, a lot of things are discussed at the C level, but it doesn't trickle down. So, and as soon as I say reentry, individuals go to the negative pole, right? They say, "Oh, Steve says, yeah, oh, I want to hire guys. I want to give everybody a second chance, but not at my facility." Let it happen over there. I'm glad what those guys are doing, because I don't want, because as soon as I say reentry, then someone says, "Oh, he's going to get some murderers in here." That's what it is. So it's a lot of education, but what excites me is the early adopters. And I'm not going to mention the company's name, but I had a company that I did a presentation for, and the HR manager looked at me and she said, "I am all for this because my son just got out of jail and he cannot find a job."
Good one. Yeah, I like that.
My son, the person that I raised, he made a stupid mistake. Wrong people. Yeah. And he went to jail, did 3 years, and now he can't find a job. And I'm so glad that you're doing this. Yeah. It's the why behind it. You can go to any staffing company, but we're impacting lives. And for the employer, Steve, there's a gap. Employers can't find, everyone's saying we can't find employees anymore. Yeah. But you have individuals that are ready, eager, willing, and they have a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove. They're like, give me one chance, second chance. Give me a second chance to prove, to earn my debt back to society. That's what they want to do.
You know what I think? You know better than me. I'm guessing part of your challenge is Hollywood. Hollywood portrays, anytime there's movies on TV and it shows people in jail, right, or prisons or jail, to make the movie exciting, it always shows these super hard,
tattoos on the face,
and all these. It's like, actually, no, like that's not how most of them are. That's part of your challenge, right? So because when you're talking to the HR lady that just watched some movie, where she's thinking, "Oh, I don't want like gang members in here that have killed people," Exactly. That's got to be a challenge for you.
And you'll be amazed how many white collar, quote unquote, white collar individuals that we support, embezzlement, these white collar crimes that people really do time for.
Totally.
So, or just like you said, a simple mistake, a mistake.
Yes.
Steve and I are at the bar, we get in a fight, I
Yes.
punch you, you fall down,
Yep.
you hit your head. Now I do 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, so it's my life's work, Steve. It's something that I'm
I love
passionate
it.
about, and I don't need to rehearse because it speaks for itself. There's an opportunity, there's a gap that needs to be filled, and it needs to be filled with some qualified individuals, and they just need to be heard.
One other thing I think you have going for you here is, and I wanted to get into a lot of the state of recruiting, the future of recruiting and AI and tech, but I'm going to have you back on the show for that.
Mhm.
One of the things I think you have going for you is, and I believe this, again, I'm not an expert, but this is my personal opinion. I think white collar jobs and laptop jobs with the advancement of AI and technology are actually more in danger than trade skilled jobs. I think trade skill blue collar jobs are highly valued right now and is the safe place to be. It's safer to be a plumber right now than it is to be a software engineer.
Yes. Yes, I agree with you 100%. And, you know, I shied away from AI until about 3 or 4 months ago when I started tinkering around in it. And you are absolutely right. You can't, a brick mason is a brick mason.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, in 10th grade, they said, well, in ninth grade, they said, hey, do you want to go to college? No. Or do you have the aptitude to go to college? No. Okay, so in your 11th and 12th grade year, we're going to send you to this technical school.
Yeah.
Half a day, you're going to learn a trade. Steve, I have jobs right now as a maintenance tech that would pay people the equivalent of 80 grand a year if they took the job, if you were a maintenance tech with the experience.
Yes.
That's a 2-year school. So yes, a lot of these white collar jobs are going to go away. But
Totally.
to your point about the future of staffing, the community at large, they're tired of the old staffing model. They want to know. They want to know why, what makes you, I mean, if you and I went and we called on some of the prospects out in Colorado or Atlanta, they would say, what makes you different?
Totally.
Because the pool doesn't change.
No.
So I don't have a magic pool of individuals.
And everybody, and every staffing firm says, oh, we have the best process and all this stuff. Everybody.
I've been doing this for a long time. Nobody has the best processes.
Yeah,
I know.
It's
really your culture and are your people really working for a goal? What's your North Star? So what's going to make your recruiters going to make that extra call? Your sales guys touch another prospect or customer. Are you really delving in and spending time at your customer site and knowing what they need and walking away from bad business? That's another thing before I go, I want to express to you. Just because we're working with the reentry population doesn't mean that we're working with all clients. We're not having our people plucking chickens, picking up trash on the side of the road. No. When I came back, I was talking to my CHRO and I told her we need jobs that are at or above market rates. We're not paying people $9 an hour where it seems like they're in a chain gang again. You see it all the time. There's a bus and they're picking up trash. Why? Because you went to jail? You think because you did 2 years? No, we need to, and this is I'll come back on this one, but in the United States, we're not rehabilitating, we're incarcerating.
I believe
we are
that.
not teaching any,
I
spent my first week in 6 correctional facilities in North Carolina, and trust me, my brother, there's not rehabilitation. You are housing people that are turning them into monsters.
And in Mark, when I had Mark on the podcast, I'll send you that one too. He said the exact same thing. So what the reason he got into it is he was an educator in the system. He was one of the guys that went in to educate the prisoners, and he felt like the prison system didn't want him there. He felt like, just like you said, he's like they were just treating them like incarcerated monsters. And he almost felt this resistance from the administration to educate and help these people. He's like, it's just for them, it's just a system and it's a money-making system. Almost like they didn't want the prisoners to be re-educated.
Correct.
Because they would,
because it's some I will say there's some for profit. There's some advantages to people coming back into incarceration, right?
Yeah.
But and not to get too political, but I see it as how you view COVID. Is COVID a national emergency or is it a political thing? If you treat it as a national emergency, so many people wouldn't have died. I believe, this is just Tim, if you commit a crime, you probably you need rehabilitation, whether
Yes.
whether it was by mistake or whether you have some
Totally.
you have
Yeah.
it's a sickness or something, you committed a crime, so let us help you. We're gonna give you a second chance.
Yeah, totally.
As opposed to taking, Steve, if you've seen it, I walk into a pod that is probably 20 by 20, and there's 40 guys in there that are there all day in their bunk beds, and they're doing nothing, but they're around each other 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're not doing anything but existing.
That's just terrible.
You would come out a different person. I would come out a different person.
Sure.
Imagine if I went in at 19 or 20 and I did 5 years. I go in as a kid and I come out a monster. So that's a whole nother problem, because what is it? 87% of individuals that go to prison, they go back.
They go back.
So,
yeah, they go back. I know we're out of time. I want to tell this one last story, and then I'll mention website and stuff again. I've had several people on this topic on the podcast, and it really gets me reflecting back, now that I'm older. I'm 56. And there's just so many things I did when I was young. I mean, first of all, I don't even know how many DUIs I probably should have had. The number of times I could have went to jail for DUI.
Yes.
I don't even know.
Infinitesimal.
I just got lucky. I got lucky.
Yep.
I just got lucky and never got taken to jail. But there was a few other things I did when I was younger. I want to tell this one thing really quick, if you don't mind. You got 2 minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was 17 years old. I was working at a convenience store. And my manager, who was like 19, he was selling marijuana from behind the counter. He had this little operation going on. This is in Oklahoma. He was the manager, and when people would come in to buy cigarettes or pop or whatever, he had his little baggies of marijuana, and he had this little side business. And I'm just a young kid, right? I'm like, oh wow, yeah, cool. I guess, whatever. I'm just chasing girls and drinking beer and driving my Ford Torino that's souped up.
Life is good.
I'm not really paying attention. I don't really care. I'm like, whatever. I actually was not a cannabis user back then. Anyway, one day he goes, hey man, I need to make this run to Arkansas with some product. He's like, you want to go with one of my friends to take some marijuana to Arkansas from Oklahoma? And I don't even know. It's like a couple of giant bags of marijuana that he needed to go to Arkansas for whatever reason. I wasn't smart enough to know what was going on. I didn't ask too many questions. He's just like, yeah, you want to go with Johnny to Arkansas? You guys can like have a good time and just take this for me. I was like, okay, I guess whatever. None of it really registered in my brain, the risk that I was putting myself in at the time. I was just a dumb kid. Mm-hmm. And so me and this guy go in my Ford Torino from Oklahoma to Arkansas and take these 2 giant bags of marijuana to some dude in Arkansas. We just pulled up at his house, gave it to him, stayed the night, went home. I mean, do you know what could have happened to my life had I been pulled over and sent to prison for that? I would be a completely different person. My life would have been turned upside down with one dumbass mistake as a young man. And I think about all these things for these young men that make these mistakes, and then they get caught in a system, and I feel terrible for them. So,
well, a few things my mother used to say: idle time is the devil's workshop. A lot of us have too much time on our hands. Young, white, black, green, brown, especially when you're young. Number 2, you're the average of the 5 people you associate with. So if they don't think it's dumb, you don't think it's dumb. But however, based on the quantity and you crossing state lines, that's a federal offense. Now you have transportation with the intent to distribute. Now you're a drug lord. Suddenly. And if you shared my hue, you probably wouldn't have had great representation, and you would have been thrown under the that's 20 years. That's 20 years right there. For a mistake. It was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
I mean, so I think with everything, there are certain topics in the United States, in the world that there's no easy fix to it. This is not an easy fix as well. Yeah. We got a lot of work to do. And when I talk to my CHRO about it and the CEO, this is my life's work. So
I love it, man. I love what you're doing.
It's not something that we're not going to talk next year and you say, well, Tim, is it done? Yeah. Touchdown. No. Because we're trying to open up in every state. We're trying to open up nationally, and we want to have several locations, and we're trying to talk to all the large employers and make the biggest impact. And thereby we hope for the best.
I would like to talk offline. I'm going to send you a follow-up. I know I owe you a couple of links, and then I'm going to send you a follow-up. I'd like for me and you to have a one-on-one conversation about how Riderflex, our firm, how we can help more, how we can be involved. What else can we do? I want to have a follow-up on that, if that's okay.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Tim, congratulations on, sounds like a wonderful family. Sounds like a great career. Sounds like I love the fact that you're passionate about what you're doing. You're not only an expert at the field, but you're just helping human beings and changing their lives. And I love that, man. Congratulations.
I'm the luckiest man alive. Trust and believe. I'm the luckiest man alive. So I appreciate your time, and let's connect. Let's connect and let's talk some more.